Focusing, I'm sure you've noticed, we're mostly focusing on grand work, since that's since I think most of you are either up to speed or getting there on upright regulation. So one of the procedures before we actually start regulating is to align the hammers to the strings in the same way that we do on uprights. So and also in the same way that we do on uprights, the way we want all of those hammers to be the center of the hammer to strike the center of the string, right? But we also want them to be equidistant from each other. Now sometimes in an ideal world, their travel would be exactly the same. So where they are when they're at rest would be exactly the same as where they are when they're striking. So that's an ideal world, and I guess we could go through and travel everything absolutely perfectly, but I don't know, just an ideal world isn't very practical, doesn't really exist. So we kind of have to compromise between the two, between making them all aligned. Like, let's look at Victoria's alignment job. Looks pretty good, Victoria.
It was a hard one.
That is a hard one.
And it isn't my best, actually.
Yeah, that's a really hard one, especially because this is a Steinway, and Steinways are built different than every other piano, and this is a particularly hard one to align. It's almost as bad as aligning brass flange hammers. Those are hard too. So there's kind of a compromise between getting them. I want them to all look perfectly aligned. You know, I want to be able to look at the piano and say, this is a beautifully regulated piano. I can tell because all the hammers are aligned. But at the same time, you know, they should be pretty close to hitting the strings. If there's a traveling problem that's really off to one side or the other, then we're going to take care of that. But if it's just minor, you know, if it's not exactly centered on the strings, but it's perfectly aligned when it's in the rest rail, that's fine by me. Okay. So on the grand, the only thing that I really want you to master is I want you to do the regulation of or alignment of the hammers by feel. I don't want you to be like in the same way that we do spoons by feel. I don't want you to be going down here. Where am I going to put that tool? Oh, there it is. Got it on. And then go up and do your alignment. Like, I want you to stay in this position and do your alignment this way. So let's have a look, see how our alignment's doing. That note is, so if you get the camera straight on, totally parallel with, let's see, it should be, that one looks pretty good. This one, of course, is so far over. I actually messed that one up intentionally before the class. Most of these are pretty good, though. This one is so badly aligned that it's only hitting 2 strings. So really the main, actually performing it is very simple, but the main focus of what I want you guys to learn to do is to do it leaning over, watching, and just move your hammer or move your tool without having to look. Okay, so this one I'll move a little bit over.
So how are you adjusting the space of the hammers with that?
It's just you put it over the flange. Do we have any? That grand actions out. Will you take that cheek block out? Oh, there is. Okay, let's go look at it. So the tool just fits right on top of the hammer flange is all. Just like this.
Oh, okay. Oh, in between.
This is supposed to be a Yamaha tool, but it doesn't fit very well. That is really tight. When they're that bad, sometimes you can use like a screwdriver to fit in there. That doesn't go very far in though. So when it's this tight, you might have to kind of do like one of them, find a reference, and then sort of align the rest of them to that and do it outside the piano, which takes a little bit longer. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
I had to
In and out and in and out.
Yeah, but I did use a lot of tape, the blue tape.
Oh, nice.
And I would just kind of eyeball it, measure it, like, okay, this one needs to go an eighth to the left.
Okay.
This one a little bit to the right.
Yeah, good.
And just write that down on the keys.
On the keys.
Yeah.
Make the adjustment, put it back in,
And
check them all,
yeah,
and then adjust your
happy
notes.
faces on the one.
Happy faces.
That one we're okay.
Okay. All right. Good.
The happy face technique.
The happy face technique.
Yeah.
That's good. These are both G3s, but for some reason this one, it's still fairly tight on this piano. There's actually different tools. There's a different type of tool that has like a little, it's not in the drawer right now. It has two little prongs that fit. That's more for Baldwin's. Anyway, that you can just adjust. This hole here is supposed to be fit over the screw. All right, let's see if I can make this one work. So sometimes, can you see, Avery, what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Sometimes you kind of have to make one of them sort of ram into the other until you can go back and fix it.
Kind of like when you're just regular screwing on any, you overcompensate a little bit so it can, or you push it over really hard so it'll just kind of reset back and be a reasonable distance.
Yeah.
Okay.
This tool is really not fitting on very well at all. So you kind of have to learn to feel what moving over by one flange feels like. Which is hard to do because it's different on every piano.
So if you lean it to the left, the hammer moves to the right.
Yeah.
It's a tricky video because you can't see anything you're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, he can't?
Well, it's all hidden, except for these hammers. Everything's hidden under here. We don't know what you're doing.
Okay. I guess you get the idea, though, that the ideal is to be able to do it just, yeah. But I'm actually glad we looked at that action over there, because that's actually not that uncommon. So in those cases, yeah, you do have to figure out some sort of a system where you take it in and out. What I don't do the happy face technique like Victoria, but I'll find one that looks good. Like, oh, the G sharp is good. That one looks, and then I'll use that as a reference. Then I'll find the next one that looks good. Or I'll just do, if none of them are good, then I'll just do one and make it good. And then maybe a fifth down or a fourth down, I'll do another one that's good. And then kind of get them all evenly spaced between that. And then just do like, a clump of 6 or 7 at a time, if it's one of those that you have to go in and out.
From best to worst instead of worst to best.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then your final thing is to go in and space them evenly out of the piano so that when they're at rest, they look right on. So overall this process should be, if they're terrible, maybe a half hour. It's not that long to go through it. But something like a Yamaha, which is probably already in good shape. You could probably get it done in 10 or 15 minutes. All right?